The Mogul, a short story from the Unwitting Conspirators series. Part 2. Do you feel it? The wind crept through the sleeping valley like a hound on the hunt. It bayed at the moon as if in pursuit of a scent. It howled over the expansive forests and scaled the hills extending from the city horizon, full of lights and flashing things, until it finally slowed to flow around towering walls, as if deliberating whether they were meant to contain or keep out. In comparison to the vast display the element had braved in order to face off with the contents of this cage, the high rock boundaries of the property were nothing but a brush stroke. It scaled the barriers and breezed seamlessly to the grass beneath. Now in full view of the ecosystem contained, the wind could see the estate was stately. Even in the dark, its maintained gardens were apparent. The fruit orchards, extending directly before it, were full of aromatic blooms, just waiting to burst into their full potential. Its attention moved onward to the oak trees scattered over the face of the property, and through them to a lone willow overshadowing the water feature at its heart. It wept into its own moonlit reflection in the courtyard beneath the looming chateau. The force tousled the blades frightfully as it rustled its way to the big players. It swept through the ancient trees, demanding to know why it had been summoned so late. It wrestled with the manicured hedges lining the massive mansion in search of answers. Why had it been awakened in the middle of the night? What creature could possibly cause so much tension through its currents? And who would carry on with such lack of care for anything surrounding it? The air the force was forced to share as it moved endlessly, collecting and observing everything, had been compromised lately. That pathway was being polluted in deep vibrations. It was bound to investigate any sort of pollution lest it spread. And tonight, the scent had led the force here. A single window glowed against the outside quiet. Low light spilt secrets from the open pane into the courtyard beyond, where a dozen pairs of eyes reflected from the trees bordering the drive. As the curious creatures living around the manor gathered to see what manner of beast could possibly disturb things as such. Robins, squirrels, rabbits, even a stray doe who'd been unlucky enough to be caught within the gates before they'd closed for the night, remained frozen as if transfixed. Each had found sanctuary within the walls, and each was rethinking the safety of their situation. The wind didn't appreciate the tales it was being forced to bear. Tidings, such as those being whispered by the witnesses, often came with a beating. It rustled the trembling leaves, demanding they speak their piece. "There's a monster in our midst," they moaned compliantly. "It roars through the midnight mist in spontaneous bursts. The toxins it breathes into us are full of cursing and crying," the hedges lamented.
"We've heard it too,"
groaned the oaks.
"Tonight is nothing new. The outcry over the assault has simply grown over time. There's no rest. There's no rest from the contents that beast is spewing."
The others' unified confirmation was cut short as agitated voices escalated to meet the forces gathering beneath the open window's edge. Again, the breeze sifted through the keepers of secrets. sorting their contents from most to least important and deciding the fates of all things involved in the present situation. It howls into the night, frightening those who've taken sanctuary in our boughs, wept the willow. What a dastardly fiend! How on earth could one raise such a scene? The wind found itself wondering.
You are all complaining that I have to house the devilish being.
The mansion creaked in, submitting its testimony against.
You have no clue what it does within my walls. And try though I might, I can't keep it contained, for during the day, it's out again to roam through its own race, hunting.
What do you mean? The wind blew curiously up to the open window.
How could one not scream and turn into a banshee when innocent blood's being spilled by them?
Murmured the apple tree bashfully.
You have no idea what's buried beneath me.
Even a monster must feel guilty. The birches nodded their agreement into the wind. As if to argue against their final point, a burst of mirthless laughter lashed out and carried through the giant's branches. One by one, their leaves shuddered. The roots hidden beneath quaked and curled in their building anger. Enough, the wind whispered.
Now I'll listen to them.
A penny dropping into the courtyard walk would have been heard at the front gate for the silence that drifted in after the command. Each living creature wide awake and awaiting with bated breath for a final decision to be rendered by the one at the edge of the wind. Within moments, a quarrel broke through with renewed violence. "How could you?" one boomed. "Why wouldn't I?" the other egged him along. "Huh, why wouldn't you?" it sneered when no response was given. "The man who could have anything and won't do anything with it. I bet your parents would be so proud." "You've got 10 seconds to shut your fucking mouth, Henry." The first cut in with a marked warning. Through the low glow of the moonlight, a little red robin could be seen perched between the branches of the oak nearest the window, watching. Two silhouettes faced off on the other side of the luminescent curtains. Through the sheer material, one could be seen standing resolutely in front of the desk between them. The other leaned ominously over the desktop, his face active bait toward its opposing force. The shadow of an important armchair rested just beyond the second figure's turned back. After a moment of scalding silence, he sat down into it. The first remained standing before the one he'd marked Henry. "I have a question." After a pause, a cruel chuckle fell over the space surrounding them, leaking through the window to pollute the hedges beneath. If they could have, they would have screamed. "Fire away," came the taunted response. "Have you always been this way?" the man standing asked down at the sitting shadow. "Or did you develop these tastes over time and with the money we made together?" A wicked cackle exploded, driving the robin from its branch and into the night sky for sanctuary. "Listen to you, self-righteous prick. Don't pretend you never done anything. I've been here the same 15 years you have. This company would be nothing without me. You'd still be a dirty street rat, you little piece of shit. Don't think anything different. Without me, you'd be nothing. Don't compare tax loopholes to your deplorable shit." The sentiment of pure disgust slopped over the sill. The bushes shuddered their agreement. A bit-lipped silence followed in the wake of the exchange. The trees, the birds, the bees, all things who'd been startled awake over the vast property, leaned in. You know there's nothing you can do, right? I'm the least important person at that table, Richards, and you know it. Henry's wolfish grin could almost be seen glistening through the curtains. Checkmate, partner, he laughed out, tossing his head back. The shadow opposing the sitting figure lifted its arm. The mesh material rippled in the wind of his motion. Whoa! Whoa! The sitting silhouette's voice snapped to attention as he noticed the glistening metal piece pointing directly into his face. He lifted his hand slowly, chuckling wickedly. You'd kill me with your own gift? Ha! The oaks tasted bitterness in the words as they marinated in them. That's poetic. Is this how you imagined it playing out? How long have you been planning this? Henry's final hiss was murderous. I didn't plan anything, the standing man rasped. I didn't want this, you sick bastard. I trusted you with my legacy. My name is attached to yours. If this ever gets out, I'm gonna burn down with your twisted secret life. Seriously, I can't fucking believe it. Tell me you didn't mean what you said. Tell me the shit you showed me was fake. Another heartless laugh. The shrubs shook at the sense of detachment, flittering in with it. You're weak. I didn't see it before. Before, I saw a vision. Something that was going to shake things up. The shadow sitting lifted a fist to shake it between them for emphasis. You didn't disappoint, he chuckled. How about this? How about you go home, crack open that scotch you've been keeping on a pedestal all these years, like a sentimental little bitch? He paused to let his partner marinate on the insult he'd levied. Yeah, do that. Think on your decision a bit. The wolf grinned again. And once you've collected yourself, your nerves, come back. I won't go anywhere. I'll wait right here. If you feel, in the end, that killing me'll justify yourself, come and do it. Play out your heroic little poem, but know your time will come, Richards. They won't let my death go unpunished. So, you have choices now. Whatever will you do with them? The sitting shadow leaned forward to rest elbows on the desktop again. His fingers pressed against each other, one after another, tapping out a taunt toward their opponent. The wind rustled through the branches to calm their contents, as frustration built against the apparent disregard for life. Did you give them options too? The standing man cranked back the hammer with a metallic schlick-click. The other stood his ground, as if he didn't believe the one he'd called Richards had it in him, testing dangerous waters. No, it isn't often that I do, and even when it seems like they have one, it's all to make the last moments utterly hopeless, as they realize the choice never... The last 3 shots rang out in rapid succession. The voice never finished its sentence, and the standing shadow didn't wait long to spin for the door. For the next 30 minutes, lights flicked on and then off again in various rooms throughout the mansion. Plastic, metal, wood clattered to the floor. Glass shattered sporadically, until finally the entire house fell quiet. A single light in a corner window 2 floors up remained lit, the only one with maroon curtains resting at either side of its open lid. A shadow crossed over the threshold, disappearing at the opposite side from the dark mouth of the open door in the background of the scene. After a short time, the shadow crossed again to blend in with the dark hall outside the doorway, only to re-emerge in the room he'd first been in. The wind tossed the see-through barrier in time to reveal the shadow's gloved form, making its way to the far end of the large desk, where his former partner lay slumped and lifeless. When the gust fell away, the veil shifted back to rest between, as the figure grunted and hauled the lump that had been quite animated until the first shot went off, across the office space. Together they disappeared through the doorway. Soon enough, the shadow reappeared in the upper window between the drawn maroon curtains. He dragged the corpse of what had been Henry to the far side of the looking-glass. When he came again to the window, he leaned out, taking in fresh air as if he'd had none in ages, before pressing his mouth to the crook of his elbow and wiped his lips. He walked to the mouth of the doorway, alone again. He flicked off the lights in a fluid motion, shutting the door behind him. After a sweep of the office done and the bleach wiped down over the chair once inhabited by a now very dead body, the man shut off the only light standing between the mansion and complete darkness. The mouth of the property slowly split down the center. The cold, decorative metal gate opened out into the darkness the wind had traversed to be a witness to the events that had transpired. Not long after, the man emerged from the front door. His feet cascaded down the front stairs and onto the cobblestone walk leading to a sleek white vehicle. The lights shuddered as the doors unlocked. The driver's side swung open on his command and then closed to swallow him whole as he tossed himself to the seat behind the wheel, hands barely shaking as they grabbed hold. The dark-tinted windows barely lit up as the car sped toward the open gate and away. The grounds were silent. The birds ruffled their feathers and nestled peacefully into the serenity following the Shadow Man's exit. The rabbits and squirrels did the same, dispersing each to their own space. The solitary doe pranced along in the vehicle's wake until it realized the way out had been secured. The urgency lifted, and the creature slowed to a stop at the edge of the orchard to graze. There was no need to let sweet leaves and blossoms go to waste. All was still outside of the branches it jostled and harassed for their fruits. The wind was nowhere to be found. Like a hound, it had taken up the chase as the chariot sped away, fully convinced the story unfolding had only just begun. To be continued. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in for this episode of The Mogul. It will be a 3-part series, so feel free to hit the like and subscribe button and the little bell if you'd like a notification on when the next section comes in. God bless, have a great week, and thank you again for listening.